We're starting with full sirloin that has actually been sheet boned off the bones. So bones have been taken out all in one piece, taking care not to cut into the underside of the eye muscle of the sirloin, and it's been left with a long tail. Now we need to trim this down according to the use that we have for it. The tail, for instance, the length from the tip of the eye muscle is determined on what use we're going to have for the end product. If it's going to be rolled, you may wish to leave a longer tail so that can be wrapped around the inside of the sirloin. But when it comes to cutting sirloin steaks, you certainly don't want a long tail. For that, I tend to use the eye muscle as a reference point, and that can be, the tail can be then any part measurement of the size of the eye. On this occasion, I'm going to probably do it a quarter of the eye muscle. So taking that as half, I'm going to do half again, which is probably giving me something like that sort of tail left on. So I'm going to make a mark there, and I want to take that mark running parallel with the back line of the carcass to there, and then that's drawing those lines together. Tail off the sirloin like so, and then that gives me a nice uniform even shaped width to work with. Next is just checking on the inside that we've not left any bone sheath from the back of the bones or connective tissue and gristle. So again, using the tip of the knife, working underneath and taking that away. Again, just making sure we don't dig deep into the underlying muscle. Important that we haven't made any incisions in here, because if we had, it's more surface area for the succulence and juiciness of the meat to actually dry out in cooking. So that's the inside surface of the eye muscle checked. What I need to do now is look at the piece of the loin that attached to the backbone. So that is where the animal is upright. That's the backbone. We have a lot of coarse, gristly connective tissue and tough meat. We're going to trim that off. So again, this will be following a seam between the two muscles, the eye muscle and the chain. And as I part that, it's actually exposing silver gristles that lie within that seam. So not cutting into the meat, I'm just following that seam itself. So taking that chain off completely. That will be cleaned up of the silver gristles and any excess fat, and then basically goes into our dice for mincing. Now on the inside where that chain is removed, we can clearly see the silver gristles. Again, they will be going hard in cooking, so we just need to lightly remove them by tip of the knife just underneath and skinning them off lightly to leave that fine textured muscle underneath. So that's the silver's removed from the underside of the chain area. Now we just, along here is a yellow elasticy type of gristle and the back strap. So we're going to remove that part. Again, trying to keep it in line with the back line of the carcass, so everything is kept nice and uniform in shape. Turning over, again, making sure that is nice and square and clean for presentation. Now, we like a nice covering of fat over the back, but the problem here is that underneath this fat, there's a thick sheet of silver gristle that covers the eye muscle. So, for ease and presentation, I will take a strip of fat and remove that down and off to the gristle. If I was using this as a joint and I was going to put some strings around it, I would have actually gone under the fat from this side and peeled the fat back. But I don't want a floppy piece of fat when we're producing quality sirloin steaks. So off comes the fat, and that then is leaving us this thick silver gristle right along the length of this good quality sirloin. Now that gristle will be on every sirloin you get. So it is important that we remove that. Otherwise, it's what's left on the plate at the end of the meal. So now the fat's gone and it's exposed the silver, I'm going to follow that line again, just lightly, so that I can cut away the silver gristle. I don't want a heavy incision in there because I'm cutting into the sirloin. And it's then basically skinning this piece of gristle off to that line. This is where the silver gristle actually splits and folds in on itself. So a little bit more care and attention on this end. So out comes that last bit of gristle. And that has now given us a trimmed sirloin ready for portion and staking. So sirloin with the back strap removed, the wedge of fat removed, the chain muscle removed, and finally the length of tail removed. So quite a bit of trimming to get our premium steaks from the centre.